the accident, what it did was it gave me a book, right? Because it changed my life. And it gave me an opportunity to be more directed on what God chooses me to be. Like, what I learned in that process was I no longer wanted to waste my time. And waste my time is, pouring into people of no value. Wasting your time is, whether it's, spending time watching TV, whether it's chatting on the phone, whether it's swiping left or right? Because all I had was time.
Welcome to Wow Black, a seriously opinionated podcast bringing you the real and raw on anything happening while Black. If Black culture's there, we're there. If you're pissed or empowered, then let's talk about it. Ride with us on this all Black everything.
All right, welcome back, Wow Black family. We in here once again. This is your man, Art.
What's good, family? This is Vince with you.
Back in again, man. We hadn't did an intro in a minute, huh? It's like we thought everybody just knew who we was, but
it has. But that's what happens when you take over. We do the right shit. We do the right shit.
Hey, so you know what? So today we got an amazing guest with us.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I'm not even gonna try to do no intro or anything like that. I mean, this man...
When you got a brother as accomplished as this...
Yeah, like...
What can we do?
But listen, you know what we're going to do? We're going to allow our wonderful guest to give us a little intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And feel free to flex on our audience because we generally love when our guests flex a little bit.
So I want to start here. Vince, thank you so much for the pre-interview that you walked me through.
100.
And Art, I paid for that intro, B. Like, like you can't get me this far, right? And go like, nah, it's closed. I've been waiting online. I've been like, waiting on weeks. Me and Wahid done got to know each other. I thought y'all had a scam going on with this link thing, so I couldn't even get on, right? I swear I was about to call, my tech guy is like, B, I think I signed into some like Nigerian scam. But anyway, nothing against the Nigerians, but y'all know like everything and everybody. Italians, do really well with pizza. Nigerians was the creator of the top rate scam, but we all are all jokes because people will be running at my door talking about why you talk about me like that. But I'm not. And so everybody know these are jokes. I'm a failed comedian. Started my career in entertainment back.
Ben, I'm gonna cut you off for a second.
Go ahead, bro.
Peep this out. You're right. You come in and make it even better. Listen, Wild Black. Today we are going in on a hell of a topic, right? This brother has done so much amazing stuff. He's touched so much music that has touched you. and on top of that, he's inspirational as hell, right? He's been through some things and he's come out and found a way to succeed. Not just succeed, but to tear shit down. Like this brother has been at the forefront of music. Feel like as long as music been around, especially coming out of Atlanta.
Ooh, slow down, B. You was good until you got there. Like, slow down, bro. Like, now you did. See? That's what happened with us, B. We get too much, You get too many people in the kitchen. Like, come on, bro. Sleep up.
And we're gonna go light on the sauce. We're gonna go light on the sauce.
Easy.
But real talk, this brother has been around the table with Jay Z, Khaled, Beyonce, Travis Scott. Like the list is long as hell, right? The moment you hit his website and you look at this timeline that he's got on his page, it walks you through the story of what hip hop looks like today.
And the level of influence this brother has had on the
Absolutely.
game.
And then on top of that, I know we're going to talk about it. He found himself in this position, right? This bad car wreck that to me, when I heard the story, I walked with a limp for a week. And his brother came out of that and is doing some amazingly powerful things. Benny, brother, tell the folks a little bit more about yourself.
wow, man, I don't even know how to go from there. But listen, once again, thank you guys so much. And I'm very appreciative and humble for you just taking the moment to even show interest in me. So want to give homage to you guys and your program and continue success. So thanks with that. Uh, I've been in entertainment for some time now, a couple decades, and really have found my niche in understanding, the value of music.
Right.
Started in my first job, as I said earlier, as a comedian. Right, the head of promotions in New York for Motown Records had booked me. I was graduating that summer from St. John's University, and she asked me at the end of the show if I wanted to be her intern. And you know what? Nobody ever told us when we was in school what an intern was, but we always say yes. So she's like, you want to come down and be my intern? Black kids didn't know nothing about no internship back then. And I was like, yeah, cool.
Hell yeah, whatever opportunity, I'm on it.
Whatever it was, sound good. And I know you worked in Motown, right? So whatever it is, I'm there. And prior to that, I worked a lot of jobs, and my craft is sales. So, doing school, I sold cutlery door to door. Back then, sold fax machines. I worked for Citibank selling their financial products. So when I got to Motown, it was crazy. I showed up for the interview process with, what I knew my uniform to be was a 3-piece suit, anti-shade case, and black wingtips. That's how we were disciplined. So when I got there to the building, everybody thought I was the feds. Like, nobody dressed like that. Because I'd never, my aspiration wasn't music in the beginning. Right. We all love music. We're born in music. Like, music is definitely a defining moment on how we look at everything monumental in our life, from, births to celebrations to deaths, right? Like, everything is all embodied with it. But that wasn't, in the beginning, my quest to get to a label. So, the opportunity presented itself, and I stepped in at that point. So once I got in, I realized, like, how important it was, right? From where I come from, selling products, to how you could take someone's career and someone's life and make them a star in less than 12 weeks. Because that was really like the runway back then, when you could just take a record and run it up the charts. And someone who was literally nobody, right, in a 12-week span could become somebody, right? And now it's instantaneous, right? You can just go on, throw something up, life will take on, and like you just, you're a paper star, right? You're a sugar star, but you're not real, however, stardom is stardom. So we can't devalue how people become successful, but it's just a different kind of spotlight that's put on them. So, my journey at Motown was really, really the cornerstone of education for me in music, because I think I wouldn't have it any other way if I could play my whole life back, is because I was surrounded by, the neighborhood, meaning like it was cultural, it was Black, it was still Black, right? The leadership was Black, the decisions were Black, no one allowed you to fall, right? Everybody was supported. I'd had a child at that point, and part of what one of my other jobs, outside of that, because I was interning for $25 a week at Motown as a graduate. I was a graduate at St. John's University, making $25 a week. And then the lady was paying me on the side. Always get some little something on the side. She was giving me another $25. So I was literally making $50 a week with a child, rent and everything. So,
Damn.
we had I had a lot of different things I had to do. I was a security guard. I drove limos. I even started a recycling initiative in Motown, like where the interns sat. I got a cardboard box, and back then, you remember, everybody. Well, people used to drink soda all the time. It was before all this health craze nonsense stuff wasn't happening, right? But not that that's nonsense. But so, when I noticed that when everybody would finish their soft drink, they would just throw it in the garbage. So what I did, and my intern space was near the kitchen. So what I did is put a box I'm in the kitchen next to my space, and people would rinse out their cans and throw the cans in the box, because at the end of the week, on Saturdays, I would come and take all of the cans and redeem them for money, right? And what that showed the powers that be and the people, you never know who's really watching you, right? Was like, yo, this kid is humble, right? He's serious. Everyone knew my story. I was struggling with, with my child, and but I realized like I had this thing about the music business, right? That it was incredible, right? On how people were able to just like survive and grow and blossom, not only from just the artist perspective, but also, from the executive perspective. And that was my entry point into the music business.
And that's an amazing, set of activities that kind of root you in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? This is what we're gonna do, because we love to take our guests through one of my favorite sections of the episode, and it's called our Wild Black Shit.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what it is 3 questions, and it's 2 questions to get you warmed up. But my man Benny, you warm already, so you gonna knock these out the park. These couple of questions, and then the 3rd question is all about our signature question, and can't wait to ask you that 3rd one.
Okay, let's go.
All right, first question: suit or no suit for church?
Oh man, I'm suited all. Yo, you know what?
You heard how the brother went to the interview, right?
Yeah,
that's a uniform, bro. Like, yo, bro, that's a. But you know what? We switch it up. See, I think you got to rephrase that, because, we're gonna do the fly blazer. You might rock it with some jeans now at church. It's new, right? You can do that. But I'm definitely gonna peel a couple suits during the course of the year. So I guess suit hybrid is how I would go.
but fly nonetheless every day.
There's gonna be fly, but suit or suit hybrid. That's it.
Yes.
Definitely doing that.
I got
tie
you.
Always tied to church.
I'm with you. That makes sense. You got to balance it out, right?
Yeah, B. Mm-hmm.
Second question: with the experience that you have and the breadth of knowledge that you have, who would be your top 5 greatest rappers?
You had to expect this question.
Come on, B. So we're going to start, right?
You going to go in order?
Rakim. Nah, we're going to give them out, because there's no such thing as order, right?
Okay.
It's how it comes. You said 5, right? 5. So you got to give Rakim, Jay,
yes.
Pough, Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? See, now it gets serious though, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets really serious when it's the last root of it. I'm gonna give 3,000 that.
Okay.
I'm gonna give 3,000. I'm gonna put 3,000 in there for the ATL. I stay there a lot. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna give you all that. I'm gonna give you all that.
We'll take it.
I'm gonna give you all that. And he's bona fide, B. Like, I love. See, you got to also realize too, though, man. So now when you get beyond that, you got to think about. You can't minimize. I don't care what they say. Like, yo, I think Drake has done an amazing commercial.
Yep.
Thing, but Drake is a beast, though, right? Is a rapper, right? And he doesn't get that just due. Like, yo, you know what? When you think about these young boys and the nuances, you can't run from Wayne, right? You can't. How you gonna really be talking about that and not doing it? I've never seen anybody work and write and pen is in my entire career as Future. Like, yo, dude is really a machine in that. From the cultural piece on how it goes down, cannot disrespect Tip. Right? Like, we can't, and it goes on and on and on, right? So, I'm lumping all of that in my 5.
I'm with you.
That's all my 5. Now, y'all pick and sort whatever. However you edit. Yeah, however y'all edit that, however y'all edit it is, but I'm gonna leave it with that. Right?
Hey, before he hit me, Art, what's your 5, bro?
Oh man, Jay,
okay,
Biggie, Nas. So after you get past my 3, it becomes real difficult. Like it
you start really weighing. You really start putting weight on it, right?
Yeah,
because it's not natural. It's not natural.
Yeah.
5 is really hard, right? Like, it's not natural because now it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
I'm just gonna say top 3, bro. I'm not even gonna get into the
Oh, you
other
gonna
2.
cheat?
Yeah.
See, I'm
just
throwing
gonna hit
in.
the
I need
3.
to. Yo, come on. I'm gonna put Latifah. I gotta put Latifah in there. Yo, B.
Queen Latifah.
Yo, why not? Come on, B. You gotta represent everybody.
I'm with it.
Okay.
I'm with it.
UNITY.
Right. Bro, where you at on the top 5?
Man, I'm real close to Benny on this. One change. So I'm with Jay, Pop, Biggie, and 3000 all day long.
Oh, Rakim?
And as hard as it was, I pulled Rakim out.
Ooh.
I had to put Face in, man. Scarface for me. Scarface is dope.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Scarface.
You put him in the top 5 though.
I did.
Yeah, you put that. Yo, B.
That's heavy.
That's heavy,
That's
bro.
heavy.
Like you might be on payroll. Like I don't know. Yo, B. Yo, I mean, ain't no disrespect, but like, yo, that's your wow.
Yeah.
Ain't no disrespect, because I ain't trying to get hurt by nobody. I'm a saved man out here. Like I told everybody, these is jokes. That's my disclaimer. Don't ever walk up on me talking about, yo, you said, yo, I heard you on. Nah, B, I be joking.
But
Yo,
I'm a Southern boy. I'm out of Mississippi, man. I spent all this time in Houston. I went to school in Louisiana, right?
I feel you.
Scarface, man.
All right. What do you love most about life while Black?
I love the fact that I'm always present, right? Like being Black, you can never hide from it, right?
Yeah.
When people see you, you know, they recognize you. Because one, you stand out, right? And I love the fact, like, no matter what, we got our own language, we got our own code. And what I've learned in being Black is just like, it's a privilege, right? You know, it depends on how you look at it, and it depends on how you feel about it. But man, I wouldn't give up anything other than to be who we are. Like, the history of who we are, the opportunities that we've had to create, right? With all the obstacles that have been presented, that, you know what, we strive and we get above. But I think also too, it gives us an opportunity in every sector to become closer, right? To become united, right? And to really start identifying in a better place and space with one another. So, I mean, I just love being Black, man. I love the fact that, like, you know what? Pouring myself into other Blacks pouring themselves into me, it feels fraternal, right? It feels community. It feels love. It feels natural. Like, I just love being Black, bro. Like, I don't care what's going on out here, right? Because everything that I see is a lesson, right? And it's a lesson that as long as we keep refining, when we keep defining, we will definitely improve and grow and succeed. So I think that was way too much to say, but
no, not at all.
But man, that's just just how I feel about it, right?
No, not on this platform.
Yeah, that's
you're
beautiful.
supposed to expound here.
And I like one of the things that you mentioned, man, because it's an important element around us, I believe, and it's about unity, right? Like people say, hey, what's the strongest force that can happen in the Black community is if we unify. And the way you kind of structured that response was around, all the dimensions that we operate in. And if we continue to progress in each of those areas, it just makes us become closer together and ultimately unify. I think that's absolutely true.
We definitely get there, right? And speak, but actions is where we have to work, right? And part of it is, when you think about it, and I love what you guys have done, and I love like what the power of the internet, right? And the communities that you can create, because, I look at it in a lot of fronts. Right. I look at, as Black folks, we don't do enough for each other, right? That one that gets through doesn't go in and open the door for everybody else. What they do is they shut the door, right? And you got to text and call, and I peep out the window, right? And if I feel like it, I'm going to let you in. As opposed to when you get in, it's mandatory that you got to bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, right? And ultimately, you get a lot of that service. What I've seen in corporate, you get a lot of that lip service. But, Black folks also like being that peacock, right? You like everybody coming to you. You like being the only one in the room. You like being the only one that people, come to depend on, those folks, right? As opposed to realizing, like, what bestows on you to also help the rest of us, and is greater and bigger than you, right? For all of those who don't think about giving, right? Because the ones who do, we're not talking to you. It's like being in the church, right? When the pastor's talking about, oh, you dirty, nasty sinners. You know, if you living right, he ain't talking to you, right? But if you nasty, you know it's you.
Like that message resonates with you, right?
It's be burning you up, right? And I just think, unfortunately for us, we haven't quite got as a whole the value of all the lessons of togetherness, right?
Yeah.
And the suffering of what has happened, you know, decades and centuries for us, right? And we all just look to, you know, applaud one or two or three or four or five that get through, but that really doesn't kind of come down to, you know, the base level of where we all are at. Because, you know, people will be quick to say, oh, but didn't you guys have a black president? Damn, that's all I get. Yeah. Right? I get a poster in, you know what I mean? Like I get a poster in my living room about some real economic empowerment, right? And we'll get, that's a whole different conversation. But I think like where we are and the consciousness of where we are and this generation is really important. And what you guys are doing and people like you, which gives hope, is like everyone has a voice now, right? Yeah. You tap into thousands of people, millions of people now, which that voice didn't exist 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone has a platform to, if your platform is just 5, 10, 15 people, that's more than you could get to before. Right. So, but the messaging has to be right. And I think like now we have to just adopt what's important for all of us to subscribe to, right? Like we definitely have to get a true hymnal, right? Because, the messaging be like all over and inconsistent and like, you know, cats just be talking and yapping and taking that money and, lying and, you know what I mean? Buffoonery, coonery, all of that, right? So I think like, you know, as we progress, we also need to be responsible and know that, you know, there are people in the community that really do need us to contribute, really do need us to help, right? Really do need that message from us, right? Who make it through. And don't be selfish. Don't be the only one, babe. Like, don't do that. Help out.
Right. Do your part.
Do your part.
So, bro, we gonna move to our dope quote section of the show. And basically what we do here is we generally have a quote by someone Black mostly, but it's usually something profound or something that is rooted in progress or something that's just really cool to think about and provide a perspective on it. So today's quote is, success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life, but as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed. Booker T. Washington. Tell us what you think about that.
I think it's spot on. If you think about it, right, it's not just about, you know, at the end of the game, the win, right?
Yeah.
It's the journey, you know, in the 4 quarters that actually prove the value of who you are and what you're about and how you actually are able to work in a unit or work on a team, right? And that is the true success, right? Is being able to maneuver and direct and have vision, right? Through all things. And that goes back to, you know, like my book on impact, which the title of it is On Impact. And it came to me from a situation that I was in a car accident, a near-death car accident 6 years ago where I hit a tree at 90 miles an hour. Right?
Oh, man.
Massive concussion, L3, L4, L5 vertebrae fracture, bulging disc in my back, lacerated my liver. Also, we hit the tree so hard that I lost 2 feet of my small intestine, right? And the challenge between all of that was the pain that I was in when the police came with the jaws of life to take me out. I realized at that point that, you know, I wasn't ready to go because I hadn't prepared my family properly, right? So, you know, the power of the mind is a powerful, powerful tool. So through all of that pain, right, and being in a coma for 3 or 4 days, you know, I survived with the effort and knowing like it was important for me to survive, not for the betterment of me, but for my family.
Mm.
And I think, you know, that's an isolated personal situation that, you know what, you can be in control or out of control, because obviously it was God's will for me still to be here,
Right,
or I
yeah.
wouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
But the obstacle, right? Because when you're in those circumstances, you really can lose the will, right? You can really drift and go on. Like when they say, go on home, like you really, really can go home. And the book, you know, the accident, what it did was it gave me a book, right? Because it changed my life. And it gave me an opportunity to be more directive directed on what God chooses me to be. Like, you know, what I learned in that process was I no longer wanted to waste my time. And
Mm.
waste my time is, you know, pouring into people of no value. Wasting your time is, you know, whether it's, you know, spending time watching TV, you know, whether it's chatting on the phone, whether it's swiping left or right, right? Because all I had was time, right? To
Yeah.
process and realize what the value of what time is, right? And that's all we really have here on this journey in life is our time.
Yeah.
So spending more time with my family, spending more time with and that's my immediate family. You know, my mom, she has Alzheimer's, making sure that she's straight, and driving, you know, my family forward.
Yeah. You know, one of the
Mm.
things that I thought about as I pulled that quote, and I knew based on your story it was going to resonate, was that you made a line, right? You said that you're here obviously because God wanted you to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
But also what I want to make sure our listeners get is through your story, you talked about a bunch of things to overcome, right? You talked about a lot of things that would make a lot of people change their mind about the direction that they're pointing, right? Not just a car wreck. That was a major one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, having a child making $25 then $50 a week, a lot of people would have said, I need to go in a different direction, right? Even showing up for the job interview dressed in a manner that didn't fit the job you're going after, right? But you knew that there was something else that you wanted in life. And one of the things that I think is really, really key with what you've done is you've always kept yourself very focused on what the next goal was, right? It keeps you in the game, right? God brought you back. God's helped you survive that accident. But there's also something that God placed inside of you that allows you to keep on driving, literally, physically, emotionally. And I really want that to come out in the interview today. When I heard your story about the accident, 90 miles an hour, the lacerated liver, the 2 feet of intestine, I mean, these are things that change people's lives. Oftentimes for the worse, right? But in your case, you stayed true to the path. You looked at that situation and you pulled something even more from it. You added something else to your resume, right? You added on impact. You became an author behind something that could have taken most people out, changed their life for the worst. And that's one thing that I want to make sure our listeners get from this episode. And that's nothing has to stop you until you decide to be stopped, right? That you have choices here. As long as God keeps breath in your body, you have choices about how you take the steps that you take forward. And so with that, I want to step in and ask the first question. I'm going to do things a little bit different than we normally do. Most of the time, we start small and we get more broad. But I want to ask the broad question now because I think you're so good at taking those emotions, those feelings, those experiences, and then boiling them down to the words that really matter. So with all that you've been through, right, the accident, child, money, all the things that you've managed, considering all the things that you've done, what is your message to every person listening right now? Right? If you had to boil it down to the one thing you wanted to make sure every person within earshot of this podcast playing got from you, what would that be?
Integrity. When I look at my life from as young as I can remember to actually now being on this podcast, I look at what folks really look to me to, and that's integrity. Like, and that's something that was instilled in me by my mom, right? My mother, Sister Janie Pough, right? And we know those Christians, right? My mom's a devout Christian.
Yes, indeed.
And she was the woman that, guess what, if you stole a bike and ran in the house and the police were coming, Mama, I'm hiding under the bed. Don't tell them I'm here. She's gonna go, he's hiding under the bed. Yo, that's God's will, right? Because she was never going to compromise her integrity for anyone, not even her blood. And that resonated. And you learn the power of that. Once you're rooted in who you are and what you stand for, nothing else matters. So It doesn't matter whether, you make $1 million or you make $100, right? You just have to do what's right. And when you do what's right, you take the rewards because you're happy and you're satisfied for what is for you.
Right.
Where we get distracted is we start looking at everything else for someone else and wondering why I don't have it.
Say that.
Or why that's not me. Because it's not for you, right? And in essence, for me, I decided a long time ago, right? And especially getting in entertainment, which can turn you upside down, spaghetti, noodle, twisted, all round and round, right? And you can find yourself just adrift. No, I stayed focused on what I've been taught and who I am. And what in essence, doing this journey, right? People have come to depend on, Benny's truth, right? Because people can handle, long as they know what it is, and that's what make great bosses, right? Or great leaders, or people who are in directions of power, is that you learn to depend on their truth. If it's yes or no, you can now prepare. When you don't know, that's when things become gray. So for me, it's always been important in standing for what I stand for, regardless of what the outcome.
Yeah.
And that has allowed me to move a long way, right? Because there are no shortcuts. Yeah. And I don't want the shortcuts. During my tenure in music, there were opportunities. There's a company that I worked for, they wanted me to move from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I took a pay cut of 6 figures, because at that point, living on the West Coast, I wasn't connected to any family, any friends, no energy. It was just not the right mix for me, right?
Yeah.
You can't strive if it's not right. And it works for some people. It just didn't work for me, right?
Yeah.
That's not the energy that I needed. So when the opportunity came, they were like, what do you make? You can't make that. And I was like, cool. And you know what? In essence, taking that 6-figure pay cut, I made that 30 times X because I was in an environment where I could strive, where I could create, where my mind, where the position. If it was just about money, I would have died out there, figuratively, right? And potentially literally, right? Because the value of the essence and core of who I am would have changed my whole life. I wouldn't be here with you guys, because that's not the direction that would have led me to.
That wasn't for you.
But that wasn't for me. So you can't be afraid on being unapologetically you. And that's what's really important. And when I talk a lot about that in my book, right, is how you deal with opportunities, right? And deciding and realizing, what's for you and what's not, and how you actually create, those radars, right? How do you get a better sense of understanding, who I am and what my value is and what's important? and what's really important for this life, for this journey, for me.
Yeah.
Right. And once you get that, you have that becomes then your compass on how you move. Yeah. Right. Because then you have, like, hey, guess what? I'm going to wait a little longer. Right. This isn't the opportunity. So I'm not going to force it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to make a short-term investment. Yeah. No, I'm going to wait for something that's going to take me where I need to go.
I think there's something really, really important in there. One, there are a couple of things you said that I love. It's always a great time to remind people to be who they are supposed to be, right? Because that's who you're supposed to be. I love that you said there are no shortcuts, because I say that there's a lesson in the long route, right? Sometimes take the scenic route because there's something for you to learn. But the most important thing that I want to dive into a little bit more, and so much hinges on this, you mentioned everything's not for you, right? So how do people truly identify what is for them, right? How do they stop wasting time in areas that may be attractive, may be sexy, may be trendy, but not for them? How do they find that real space that they should be in?
Well, you have to back into your goals, right? You have to look at your exit, right? You have to know where the finish line is. And what's the course that's going to get you there, right? Like if you're running a marathon, then you can't give your all, the first 2 miles, like just because people are cheering, which I did that. I ran a marathon, right? Pacing myself too fast because I didn't train properly, right? And ultimately you realize like, okay, like you realize like, yo, guess what? I got to finish this race. Now the race is harder because you didn't prepare and didn't think about the finish line, right? Yeah. You only thought about, the instant gratification of everyone clapping, right? And you got caught up in the momentum and the cheese smiling, the waving of your hands, as opposed to like, yo, this is 26 miles and it's real, right? And ultimately knowing the course is that. And okay, so like, how do we get a little more granular with that? It's like, you got to put time limits on everything, right? Whether now some have longer and shorter windows, shelf lives, but you don't never want to stay past the expiration date, right? Like you just don't want to do that. You're not going to travel for a month, come home and just grab that milk, right? So, right. So if you've been at a job that hasn't recognized you, hasn't give you any accolades, hasn't talked about, your future at the company, right? And it's 18 months has gone by and you've been busting your hat. People have been taking all your credit. Like, guess what? I know you like it because it's Google, or I know you like it because it's, label X. I know you like it because you get into but guess what? That ain't for you.
Yep.
Right.
They done showed you like, we don't, that's cool.
We don't value
you know what? You discount labor. That's all. You just discount labor. And we know you don't want nothing more than that. So you're going to wake up one day, 7 years from the day, and realize you're in the same position because they've already bought you. Right?
With 7 years left to live.
Yes. You already bought. Because at this point, we don't have to give you more.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you don't want more for you.
Yeah.
Right. You don't demand
because you
more.
haven't set stopgaps. I mean, anybody who does stocks or stopgap. At this point, if I fall below this, I'm done.
Yep.
Right? And so you have to look at your career or your personal life, right? Or whatever it is that's important to you and decide, like, guess what? This is when I have to make this decision on this. I have to make this decision on this and put it in your outlook.
Yeah, I like that.
A reminder. I've been with this dude for 5 years. He still hasn't talked about engagement. Then why do you think he's going to talk about it on year 6?
Right.
Every job review, my boss never speaks to me about growth or more money. 4 years in. Well, why do you think he or she is going to do that 8 years in?
Exactly.
You get merit increases. You get in the minimal. We like you, but you're not going to be one of us.
Don't leave. But if you do, it's okay too.
That's all right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's what it means.
That's a hell of a devaluation
Right.
of yourself
That's
right
what
there.
it means. That's what it
That's
means.
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, Benny,
Hello.
one of the things, man, as I'm listening to you, I'm super intrigued, right? So
Mhm.
I want to ask another functional question, and I'm going to set it up like this. You're a music executive, correct?
Mhm.
Right. And you do a ton other, right? I mean, I know there's real estate and public
Mhm.
speaking.
Mhm.
You mentioned stocks,
Mhm.
wine, art. You do a ton, but you're most commonly known as a music executive, right?
All day. Yes, sir.
And we in this country, and dare I say, probably other parts of the world, have a horrible habit of creating boxes around people, right? You're a rapper, you're a singer, you're a ball player, you're a businessman, you're a banker, you're a lawyer, something to that effect. We set these boxes around people, and no matter how talented they are, no matter how much they want to be something else, no matter how good they are at something else, that's the box we keep them in. But you have broken out of that box, right? The book On Impact is another step in breaking out of that box. So we're going to talk about the book in a moment, but I'd love to get some insight from you on how you created a brand and forced it on people in the capacity that allowed them to let you out of that box. To not just say, I'm not going to listen to him. We're not going to let him public speak because he makes music, right? He signs acts. How did you get past that box of limitations that we love to put people in?
For me, I've had a diverse employment history. Like before entering into the music business, I think I had a count. Don't quote me, but somewhere around 48 jobs. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. I've
Damn.
had a total of like 60 jobs, like this lifetime. I mean, like
Wow.
real W-2 kind of,
Right.
like real jobs, right? So, there's jobs, back in the day, there was opportunities. There were far more opportunities as far as is employment than they are now, because obviously automation is dwindled a lot. When you think about the basics of things that kids will afford, like part of what I talk about in my book and on Impact is my journey through life, starting as a newspaper boy at 11 to now being a full blown entrepreneur, and it gives you an undercurrent of my journey through each of these settings, and with an undercurrent of music, right? And Impact stands for ingenuity, mastery, pivot, authenticity, communication, and teamwork, right? So, that's how I kind of, pull that all together, right? Given 6 chapters for people for concepts of, if Benny could do it, I could do it too, right? And give you real life lessons and stories on how to make, all of these decisions and choices. And, so for me, my lessons and experiences from all of these jobs kind of like molded me, right? And you don't
Right.
need 60 jobs to have an understanding, but realizing how I got here was knowing back to where we were in the beginning. It's all about hard work, right? Racism does exist, sexism does exist, but you know what? Everybody wants a winner. They don't care. If you're an earner, they don't care, bro.
Yeah.
Right? So ideally, for me, what I realized when I started in music, that there were no salt and pepper hair black men in the business. I knew I couldn't retire as a black man in the music business, which if you look around, right, all the 3 major distribution and maybe 7 or 8 major labels, there's only one African American woman that sits at the helm of a major label, right? And I saw that decades ago that opportunity didn't exist. So what I decided to do was be in control of my own destiny, and that's when I started investing in real estate, right? So every bonus that I made for the last 20 years or so, I bought a piece of property, whether it was a condo, whether it was a 3-family home, whether it was a 9-family. And at one point, I owned a whole city block, right, of 30 units from corner to corner, because you know what? That became part of what I needed to do for myself, to be in control. and it made me, so think about it. I had 2 plan A's when I was in music. I was a full-time exec, and I was also building a music, I'm sorry, a real estate portfolio. And what that portfolio did, it changed my mindset about work. Like, it gave me freedom. When that money, that residual income, right? And ownership, if that's what's so important. When you ask, it's very rudimentary. It's not as profound as you think. What's kept me in not being put in a box is ownership, right? You address, when I go to the bank, you're gonna talk to me differently, right? When I go for a job, you're gonna deal with me differently on my terms. And understand, you going into a company and you have to be a part of it, right? But also, you still are who you are, right? You can't go in and not want to do what they want you to do, but you can stand for who you are and help move the company in the right direction, right? That's what you become, an agent of change when you go to a company, right? If you got a vision and a purpose, you become an agent of change. You're just not a worker, right? Because you bring in your values to the value system to make a difference, hopefully, right? And ideally, that's what's been, important as I've created my businesses, and also mentoring and bringing up young executives, right? And I don't look at myself as a music executive more so than a team builder, right? Because I've created amazing teams of minority executives that are going on now to be the heads of departments, heads of companies, very successful labels, right? Because we were a unit, right? And we held each other up, right? No man left behind, no woman left behind concept. Like, when you started working with me from day one, I taught you about financial literacy. You had to buy something, a condo, a house. Like, you're not gonna make this money and just be wearing Gucci. Like, you're not gonna do this and just have a Benz. Like, you're not gonna do that. You can't work for me and do that. Now, you can have all of those things after you have some ownership, because the ownership is what keeps you moving. That's what really, when you wake up, you feel good about knowing this is mine. And that opens your mind to think beyond, the man is gonna come take this away from me.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to that.
Man, I love that. I love 2 plan A's. That jumped out at me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I want to do is, man, there's so much inside of you, right? So I want to talk about On Impact a little bit. And correct me if I'm wrong, the full title is On Impact, Life, Leadership, and Almost Losing It All, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The way I love to take these next 10, 15 minutes is I'd like to take life, leadership, and almost losing it all and do a semi-deep dive in each one of those areas, right? Because you chose those words to modify your title for a reason. So there's something behind them. So we heard the story of the crash at 90 miles an hour, the impact, the jaws of life, right? I think everyone can almost imagine that moment, if for nothing else, seeing it on TV, how dramatic, how real, how painful that it had to be. And coming out of that, you thought about these 3 categories. So for each one, starting with life, let's talk about, one, what went into life becoming part of the book. And 2, what are the lessons you want someone to know and learn about life?
It's a great question, right? And you're the first to ask that. So,
awesome.
So thank you for that, right? And life, I looked at it from a holistic perspective, right? Never had any real challenges. We've all had, our problems or situations that might not have gone our way during life. And that's just life as a whole, right? But for me, what I realized that I was given a lot, right? Like, God had blessed me with a great journey, and I realized that I hadn't given him anything back. And it was interesting. I kind of think, like, he put me in a perspective when I first moved from LA, and my son, from LA to New York, and my son, he got sick. He was like 8, 9 years old, got sick. And We took him to the doctor. The doctor gave him a test and realized like he wasn't getting better. So she gave him another test and realized he wasn't getting better. So at this point, what we found out, he had protein in his urine, and for those who know, that's indicative of diabetes, right? And I remember coming home, and it was the first time, as a Black man, I can't say all, but like I just came up in a very uh, traditional Southern Black home where emotions, my father was just, that Black man, right? Like I've never seen him cry a day in my life. Even when he stood over my bed when I was in the hospital, and when you're in a bed in the condition of coming out of a coma for 3 days, opened my eyes probably like 4 days later, and I saw him standing over me, and I looked at him, and you never think about like simple things, like there are no mirrors, and when you're in the bed, and the first thing I saw was his face, and him looking at me, and me looking at him, and the sad and the weight on his face, right? That I knew I was really, I know I was fucked up, right?
Yeah.
At that point, and I decided like I couldn't take the all of the emotions for everyone coming in looking at me wasn't going to help me get better. So I stopped people from seeing me because I needed to be alone in order to be able to get through this, or I wouldn't, because I couldn't take the energy from everyone, the sadness, the weight. So back to my son though. So when the doctor suggested, okay, so you need to take him to St. Barnabas hospital where they gear kids up for the diabetes instruments. And I remember being at home, and I dropped to my knees and I just cried. Like, Lord, why him? Why not me? Like, I'd had so much, right? Like, I would be willing to give me the our kids, parents, give it to me. Why him? And I remember God saying to me, right, I've given you everything, and you've given me nothing. And what it came to me was, what he meant was, I had not tithed. Like when you giving a lot, you gotta give a lot.
Yeah.
You can't just take and not give. It doesn't work, right?
Wow.
So in life, for me, I realized all of that came rushing back to me, right? At that moment, right? Like you have to be the giver, right? And I've been a part of that club, but I haven't given enough. So my purpose now is to give all I got in every aspect of life. Everything that I have has to go, right? Pour it into those who need it. Pour it into those who don't want it, but give it, right? And be the vehicle for that. So that's what the life aspect of it was.
I love
for me
that.
Was realizing how much more I needed to give, right? And that's where the pivot in my life from being out of corporate to being here now, because being in corporate I wouldn't be this because I'm corporate.
Right.
So the life that I need to live has to be in the state that I'm in order to give. And what God is preparing for me is there. The table is there waiting. And in order to do that, I have to give it all, leave it all on the field. Leadership has been important because I must say I've had some amazing mentors, an amazing family, amazing friends, right? And I've learned a lot of lessons that I've been able to replicate and realize the value of being that one. Like, growing up in corporate, you don't last 3 decades in corporate, right, and not know what you're doing.
Right.
Right? Like it ain't that much luck in the world. It just don't get down like that way, right? But what was important is making sure that I tooled an army of folks that also, right, could be independent, teaching them how to fish and feed themselves, right? Not feeding them, yo, you got to learn how to fish. Like we hear all of these adages and, you know, all of this texting and lessons that growing up, you got to apply them. Like, what is the purpose of me being in a leadership position if I don't teach you everything I know? They're not going to keep me forever, right? They're not going to keep me for a short time, right? In essence, because that's just not how the corporate situation works. And it's a different set of rules for us. And we know that, right? As much as we want it to be better. And you know what? It is, right? In certain circumstances or not, but as a whole, there's always a fight because it's not equal. It's just not. And when people start addressing it's not equal, then things can get better because it's that truth we talking about. Yo, just tell me it's not equal, man. Now I know how to deal with you. But don't tell me it's equal, but you know it's not, and you just playing with a different set of rules that you want to include me in on, right?
Yeah.
That's misleading.
Yeah.
Right? So with leadership is giving everyone the nuances on how to play the game that they playing, but be all the way convicted on who you are. Don't you wave off that line, right? You may, you know, sway a little left, sway a little right, but don't you get off that line that's designated for you. You stay on that line, right? Because that's important. And the leadership for me is important, right? It matters that we are, you know, a generation of people to understand the value of knowing the art of being a corporate citizen, a good mom or dad, a good Christian, or whatever faith it is that you subscribe to, right? And get back to community. And that comes from, you know, those of us who've already learned to now help everyone else elevate. And that's important in leading, right? Because guess what? It's two sets, leaders and followers, right? And followers need to be led until they become leaders.
Right.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with you being a follower until you learn your course on how to lead, right?
Yeah.
You can't know what you don't know, but you the leader, right?
Yep.
Yo, there's people, I'm not no follower. Well, how you not a follower, right? Like, so you know everything is what you're saying. So that's a bad way of looking at it, right? Perspective. So you follow until you learn how to lead. And that's important. And that's the message that I push in the book, right? Is learning like you don't know everything, right? And it's okay not to. And, you know, as Black men, we have to learn that it's okay not to know.
Right.
And to ask, right?
Yes,
And be
yes.
humble and acquiesce and say, I'm sorry, and say, I didn't mean it, or I didn't know, right? And that's gonna help us be better with one another, right? When we can just deal with truth.
I love that.
And almost losing it all was I touched on the point earlier, was that I almost left my family in probably the worst situation they could have ever been in, was being without me. And me being the person of all of what I've done, I've sheltered and shielded them, right, to be dependent on me. So the lessons, and it's not something that you try to do. You just realize that you're doing it, right? Like that's what alphas are. That's what, you know, that's what leaders are, right? That's what men are, right? Or that's what women are, right? Who are the ones who are providers, like, you know, making sure that you have it all under control. But what about without you?
Yeah.
And I realized, like, you know, there are a lot of things that I just didn't have in place properly. Having the business in order, which was, you know what? Because I never thought about, you know what, not being here. So almost losing it all was symbolic of, like, yeah, I really would have almost lost it all. And that would have been the destiny for those behind me in my family, not having the true direction of where they need to go and how they need to move without me.
Yeah.
Right? Like without me, because the legacy is how you do when I'm not here. not while I'm here.
Mhm.
And that's indicative in every aspect of life. You know, when I was in the hospital and out of work, my team delivered #1 records because you know what? They were taught and they understood. And like, they were able to step in and call the plays because guess what? All they was waiting for was an opportunity to start. Why? Because I trained them that way.
Yeah.
And my family, the same, needed to be trained in that way, right? My friends needed to understand, like, guess what? You're important, right? I needed like to realize, like, as I've been moving in entertainment, that you know what, I wasn't as good as a Christian as I should have been, right? Meaning, like, you know what, I should have gave more time. I should have gave more of me. So almost losing it all put me at a site, but I was there, but given an opportunity. So since I didn't lose it all, meaning I'm still here, now I got to give it all.
Ooh, I love that.
Wow.
Brother, I love that. I can't think of a better way to close out than with that line.
Yeah, that was powerful.
Brother, we appreciate you being here. You laid it out. The thing that we always do at the end of our episodes is we give the mic to our guest and we let you tell the listeners whatever it is that you want to tell them. Share with them how to follow you, how to interact with you, how to get their hands on the book, and take us home.
Wow. Listen, man, y'all have done an amazing job. And I'm really thankful for this opportunity, right? And the platform that you guys have provided for me. My socials, BennyPugh.com. I can always be reached at. You know, as well as my book on impact. Pre-order goes up in January 2021. New app, part of a tech company, which, you know, old guy doing young things now, right? Have an app in beta, social media app where it's amazing. A young kid named is Antoine McLaughlin brought me this opportunity. Young African American out of Columbia, South Carolina, which this is going to revolutionize, you know, the social media space where you're able to monetize your content in a micro setting, right? So our platform allows you to make a post of up to 40 pieces of content and 10 1-minute videos. And the power is in the user's hand to set the price of what the content is. So look at us as more of a Amazon of content.
I like that.
Offer for free or either up to $99. But you know, the content creator is the one that's in control of what the set and the value of the price of the content is. And on a final note, man, I just want to say, like, once again, you know, all praises to God and all that He's done for me and you and the listeners, right? And keeping us protected and keeping us holy and putting the blood on top of us and realizing that every day is important, right? And you're only preparing today for a better tomorrow. So live it wise, love it long, and be joyful for every moment that you have with family and friends.
Man, I love that. Damn, I love that. Art, you got anything, brother?
Hey, man, I just love it. A lot of nuggets of life in this episode. And it's just some appreciation for you blessing our listeners with some nuggets that they can take into their daily lives to actually enhance and be true to them. Thank you, and listeners, do your homework with this content we just blessed you all with.
Yeah. I think there are some episodes that are just great to listen to, and there are some that are great to listen to and leave you with functional things to do, tangible things to do that can create a positive impact in your world almost immediately. This has to be one of our best ones to do that. Yeah. Benny laid out some things today that you should really consider, right? A lot of them stuck out to me, right? Knowing what's for you. 2 plan A's. There are no shortcuts, right? These are things that I think sometimes we forget, especially in the day and time in which we live today when everything is about convenience. Everything is microwavable to a point. He talked about the impact of doing it the right way being committed, living life in a manner in which you exhaust everything that's been put into you because that's what you're supposed to do. That's when you feel life as full, right? That's the feeling that we're striving for. When you feel empty, it's because I don't think you're giving enough, right? And I don't want to keep going because I can't do it any better than Benny did. So with that, Benny, thank you again, brother. Wild Black, we love you. Peace. We out.